Welcome back. Let's begin with the conversation as far as it's a potpourri of issues, so we can look at it as the state of the nation. And we're going to be building that conversation from national security, which has been a big issue in the last weeks as far as the issues of insecurity is concerned. The abductions and the releases and more abductions and killings. It's just been a very chaotic situation. Well, there's been a back and forth in Congress, U.S. Congress subcommittee. The government has done some reshuffling. It's been a lot, and I'm sure you're familiar with it. So let's bring in our guest. Mr. Daniel Bwala joins us right here in our Lagos studios. He's the spokesperson of the president, or one of the spokespersons of the president, the special advisor to the president on policy communications. But Mr. Daniel Bwala is right here. Good to see you in Lagos.
Thank you. Thank you.
Sadly, you're not talking policy communications today. We're talking national security today. Good to see you.
Thank you.
There's been a lot that's been going on. And one of the things that these things underscore is the inability, or perceived inability of government to protect our people. The killings, the abductions. I think sometimes we lose sight of the fact that what happened in Niger State is even in scale is higher than what happened in Chibok, because we understand the numbers are over 300. That's what we understand. Right. We now have the Iruku incident. We had the Kebbi incident. So if you look at those numbers, right, of course, gladly, and thanks to God, we've had some return and releases, whichever name is used. But is the government concerned about the perception of the people on them, of its ability or otherwise to protect citizens? Let's begin from there.
Yeah, thank you for having me. The government is concerned not just about the perception, but about the realities of what the people are facing and encountering. It's actually a trying time in Nigeria, in the sense that when, as a government, you see your citizens going through what they are going through, it will be a concern, because that is the sole aim or the sole purpose for your acceptance into that place in the first place, because the Constitution says that the responsibility of government is safety and security of the people. We also understand the dynamics of security problems, especially those who have been around. They will know that there are two theories behind incessant security problems in Nigeria. The first theory is that when election cycle is coming close, you find these kind of occurrences back to back like that. But there's even a stronger theory we see people, talking about lately, how that from the first outburst of Donald Trump, we began to see this back-to-back security situation, whether it is a case of trying to justify the case for military invasion in Nigeria. We don't look at it from that point of view. We know the dynamics and the complicated nature of the Nigerian demographic, right? We have ungoverned spaces, like you rightly talked about when you started, in plenty places. The state of Niger is larger than a country in Europe. And in the northern Nigeria, which is different from what you find in southern Nigeria, where cities are very close to each other, in the northern Nigeria, from the city center to a local government, it's like you're traveling to another country. Large, expanse of land. There are no people there, no governing authorities. What the people have come to call ungoverned spaces. These are the places where these elements hide or they operate from. But fundamentally, asymmetric warfare usually is very complicated. Even if it is in America, it will be a tough situation for them. They went to Afghanistan and spent 20 years or 21 years with $2.6 trillion. It was just a tough situation, because in a symmetric fight, they target vulnerable people, soft targets. It could be children, and sometimes they go to school because they need to make a case for United Nations regarding the right for people to go to school. And then they go to church and mosque, because these are areas, for example, in Africa, where you have the large, our life is sort of connected to religious activities in Africa. When you are confronted by that kind of asymmetric fight, it is difficult, and you have to be strategic, in the sense that if it is in conventional, you just find some people and then come and attack them. But asymmetric, you have to be intelligence-driven. You have to be able to separate the people in the midst of the congregation, so to speak. You also have to have that understanding, because if you just come and just on the basis of information that is not verified, you grab people, you might be grabbing the wrong person. In fact, one of the targets of whether Boko Haram, bandit, or terrorists generally in asymmetric warfare is to set the state against international community, because if you are going to approach it frontally, then you will be confronted with the bigger question of human rights. So we understand that as a government, and we are saddened by everyday news, negative news. But we are consoled by one fact, that if you look at the president, you look at his conduct ever since this problem started, you see that of somebody who is trying to find solution. He has rejigged the security architecture. He has canceled his trip to South Africa, to Angola. He stayed back on the job. He's just finding ways. This is leadership. Like he will always tell us, I asked for the job and I can't complain.
So, Mr. Bwala, let's assume without conceding that indeed this is an asymmetric situation and it's difficult to surmount the obstacles without a huge compromise in casualty of, innocent citizens. Right. Does that then justify negotiation with terrorists? Is the federal government negotiating with terrorists? So
this is a difficult question, I must tell you. There was a time federal government was negotiating. And I think that Rufai once talked about a national policy at that time when they said both state and federal government can be in a situation where they will have to negotiate, because if your duty is to preserve the life of people and citizens of Nigeria are in danger and negotiation is the only way to save them and you have to save them, then you have to do all that you need to do to save them at that time. But President Tinubu came with this zero tolerance on negotiation because it then fits into this terrorism financing. You see, you are constructively financing terrorism without knowing. So instead of elements who are sponsoring them, by giving them the money as ransom to collect the people, they also use the ransom money to buy more weapons. So the federal government does not, and it does not tolerate the idea of negotiation.
So what gave for the release of the Kebbi girls, and what is going to give for the release of the St. Mary's children?
There are lots of factors that can occasion that. One, you know that there are individuals, they call themselves negotiators. When it comes to negotiation, it's not in all cases that money is involved. There are cases where the people might feel that if they don't release these people, there's going to be a bigger problem that they can manage. That can serve as incentive for them to release the people. Sometimes people they listen to, they could be these religious clerics or anybody they could listen to, can also be a factor. At other times, it can also be that federal government has sort of encircled them in terms of saying from the intelligence point of view, you at least have an idea of where they are, right? But you have a difficulty of going to bomb there because then you have soft people with them. But then you are giving them warning and they can decide to turn them over. At other times, on their own, they can choose to do that. I also have to admit that at sometimes, families of individuals that are kidnapped, they end up paying the ransom, or state government end up paying the ransom. All of these things are possibilities for the release of the people. But you asked the question whether federal government did pay ransom, and I told you no. Whether federal government will pay ransom, and I'm saying no.
But that's difficult to believe, Mr. Bwala, because the terrorists made a video with the Kebbi schoolgirls mocking the federal government and telling the whole world that they negotiated with us.
Let me tell you something.
They weren't quite clear, how much in dollars was exchanged, but indeed they said that there was negotiation, and they were mocking a whole government.
That's the whole essence of terrorism. Terrorism is like I said, it's a belligerent war, right? You play on the mind of the people. Why do they call them terror? They inflict fear. Sometimes they do the things they do so that people will be afraid and then do whatever they say. In terms of communication, of course, propaganda. They can say anything they want to say. But if they want to, just the same way you want government to support whatever claim government is making, I believe that if the terrorists have facts as they claim, they will give those facts in terms of how much they collect, who they collect it from, because there are other times they mention individuals and they say these people will respect them or this person we don't like them. So it may be difficult for individuals to have, let's say, I trust government or I don't. We know that confidence building will take time. This problem was inherited by this government. But one fact that is clear, our eyes is on the ball. Solving the problem is much more important to us than people having a meeting, so to speak, to say government is doing well or not.
Right. Quite a number of issues to unpack, Mr. Bwala, but let me take you back to about this time. around 11 years ago when President Goodluck Jonathan was in power, about this time. And then, well, Bwala, the leader of the APC, put up that now famous tweet. And in that tweet, which we'll put up for Nigerians now, it said, why should any part of this country be under occupation in any civilized country? And he ended by saying Jonathan should resign.
Right.
There are people who are calling for the president to resign right now. Is that a fair call?
That's a right of expression. They express themselves. But of course, you know, constitutionally, if you want someone to resign, there's a procedure. As it stands today, nobody in the chain of command of democratic process in Nigeria is calling for the president to resign other than people who are saying it. And I would love if, for example, the journalists can substantiate. I mean, there is Geoffrey calling for the president to resign, or there is Bwala calling for the president. Then it will help me to respond. It will assist me in responding adequately to it. Because if you say the person has opposition, I will say, next question. Because so, what else do you expect them to say?
You're saying you've not heard anybody call for the president's resignation?
I have not heard.
Okay. A popular Nigerian artist, a Nigerian,
right,
bona fide Nigerian, just like you, Files the bad guy. I'm sure you know him, a lawyer. Asked the president to resign. In fact, he quoted the president's tweet. And there are more Nigerians who have asked the president to resign. But here's my point, Mr. Bwala. The president said...
1 out of 230 million?
They're more than that, but that's not even the point.
Okay.
Here's my point. He said that how can territories be occupied in a civilized country? That was a premise under which now president asked President Goodluck Jonathan to resign. Now, during that period, around that time, I'll tell you the territories that were under occupation. You're from Borno State.
Yes.
So you're well aware that major part of Borno was under occupation.
And none is under occupation
Bama,
at the moment.
Chibok and the rest. All we had was terrorism to deal with then.
Right.
But today, Mr. Bwala, I'll tell you the states that are under occupation. Not just areas in the state. Now, areas within different states. We have Zamfara State. Areas and territories in Zamfara State, the forests under occupation. Katsina, Kaduna, I'm coming, Kebbi, Sokoto, even in Benue, Plateau, Niger State, Kwara State, Mr.
All
Bwala,
these places
I am getting there.
Okay.
The FCT, even in Borno State, there have been attacks this year, and I'm sure you are aware of that. Yobe State, Taraba, these are more areas under occupation that we had in 2014. So yet again, I ask, is it fair to call for that resignation?
I think your question is like an oxymoron, because you cannot in one breath say a place is under occupation, and at the same time you're talking about places where they come and strike and go. If you talk about occupation, like in the case of the past you mentioned, they were actually in control of the local government. They were collecting tax. They were running the administration of the local government. That's occupation. When people come and attack and go, it cannot be classified as occupation under any description, right? But I'll proceed further to answer the question of whether the president should resign or not. You see, being confronted with a problem is not a problem. When you lack solution to solving a problem, then you have a problem. Because in life, there is no part of this planet where there are no security situations. I was telling my guys in BBC, I said the crime rate in the United States is more than the crime rate in Nigeria. And when I said that in Arise, my friend Charles Anagolo said, but the difference is that in Nigeria, it is the case of homicide or be dead, in the other one, I said, but criminal, crime are prosecuted in court. So whether it is death penalty or you go to prison and stay for 1 week, it is crime. Now, in England, they are calling for Keir Starmer to resign. People in a democratic society have a right to say what they say. But the next thing is, you back it up. If you believe when you are calling for the president to resign is a legit call, then begin the process. Otherwise, it will be laziness on the part of government to be concerned about individuals exercising right of expression.
So was it legit then to ask President Goodluck Jonathan to resign?
And I will tell you the distinction.
So that I can then?
No, I will solve this the problem of this question.
It's a yes or no question, Mr. Bwala.
I'm coming now. Cambia. In the days of Jonathan, they didn't have an idea of the solution. Why did I say that? They were in denial about the fact that there were Chibok girls kidnapped.
No, Bwala then asked him to resign in November.
Yes, so what I'm saying...
Months after the abduction. In fact, at that time,
Yeah,
they
but
had
they are all part of the
contracted,
problem.
they had mercenaries who were clearing out those areas. And I'm sure you're from Borno State, so you're aware of this thing.
Yes.
So it's different.
But do you get what I'm saying?
So first,
I'm saying you're calling
was it
for...
legitimate for him to call, or was it fair for him to call for him
Yes,
to
when the
resign?
president, then as Bwala called for the resignation, it was a legit call. Why?
So is it legit? Is it legit now?
You see, there cannot be a good conversation without giving the right of answer. You know,
I thought you answered. You said it was legit.
I have not. No,
you have actually. You said there was a legitimate call.
Okay, you want this kind of short answer? Okay, then it was a legit call. Now it is not legit.
It's not legit.
Next question.
So why is it not legit? Now, one of the things that we see this government do, and we've seen all kinds of traveling, let's diagnose the problem properly. You said the government has its hands. Effort is not as important as results. We are seeing efforts. I don't think any person who has a conscience would say there's no effort. But we're not seeing results because the abductions, it's like all hell has just broken loose. So we're not seeing results. So no matter what the president is doing now, if the number of the abduction is not reducing, then effort is not enough. Which is why, just a moment, sir. Which is why that conversation around resign or not resign, you know, that's another debate altogether. I'm sure you want to respond to that. So is it really correct to say that the government knows what it is doing when escalations are going from one point to the other in ascending order? In fact, there's another point where we look at what the presidency is doing and all of that. It looks like more of managing narrative than solving the problem. The issue of whether there's genocide or no genocide, I want you to respond to that as well.
Are you living in Tanganyika or you're living in Nigeria?
I'm here.
Okay, so let me tell you the result. Before the president became president, because I have to give you context is everything. There were prison break. We no longer have it. There were kidnappings during the daylight in Abuja and the other parts of Nigeria. We stopped it. As a matter of fact, just a few months ago, before this incessant security problem, we arrested the leaders of Ansaru terrorist organization. They were in U.S. watch list. The United States government lauded Nigeria. Then months prior to that, we had the surrendering of bandits, which the American embassy lauded Nigeria. I'm counting result. Immediately after this first 2, 3, 4 abductions that you see, in Borno State about 4 days ago, the people abducted, we recovered. Same day. That is its result. The girls from Kwara, I mean the children from Kwara, or rather the people from Kwara that were abducted, we had them come back. It is a result. So whether it is mathematics, English, chemistry, it is a result. When all the people abducted are brought back, it's a result.
But there's still been
there's another one again.
No.
There's another one again. After that, then we had 20-something number of those that were kidnapped in Kibi. That is also called what? Result.
There has even been more. We're having incessant. That's
right.
I'm not going back to those time. I'm talking about right now.
And me, I'm answering the question in terms of result.
Yeah,
you said
because
effort is not
300 students, is it children now that were kidnapped? Yeah. We have just about 50 back. So that is a very concerning situation.
Right.
And then we're hearing of more abductions. So there's something not. I think where I'm going to is not about a debate. Is the government's right in its intelligence to be able to curb occurrence? Because success for terrorists is the ability to pick up people and not be caught. That we now go back and whether we negotiated, we paid ransom, whatever it is, this is more reactive. You get my drift?
Yes, and success for us as a government is that when they are picked up, we recover them.
So you're waiting for them to be picked up?
I'm coming. That's the problem. The problem is you want me to allow you to ask the question, but you don't want me to answer.
Okay, answer, no problem. No,
so success for them, in your own words, is for them to be able to abduct people. Success in our own words is for us to be able to recover the people when they are abducted and also to ensure that they are not abducted again. For example, the use of soft target that I started by telling you, schools. Why did the president issue an emergency on insecurity and decided that we should bring back the Save the School initiative, where schools that are outside the town are going to be brought back to the town under an arrangement called the mega school? Those in the local government are coming back integrated into the unity. Success for us is finding ways to prevent them from doing that. Success also for us is looking at the limitations that we have, which is the limited number of military personnel and police personnel, and coming up with an order to increase the number by asking the police to recruit 50,000 and asking the army to recruit more than 20,000, and then recall the police people that are attached to VIP, which we have over 11,000, then ask the SSS to get trained men to go to the forest and help out, and then talk about the civil NSTC, what do you call
Civil
it?
defense.
Civil defense to also play a part. Churches are told now to beef up security vanguard. This to us is success, finding measures by for prevention, and then recovering of those that are abducted. I cannot sit here in whatever language to tell you there will never be a security situation in Nigeria. It will amount to giving a false hope to anybody. Because you and I, as you sit there, I sit here, you know that Nigeria has porous border. You don't need somebody to speak in tongues for you. You also know that we have limited number of military personnel. You know we have limited number of equipment for surveillance system like you find in advanced country. You also know we have the complication associated with terrorism in Nigeria is far more.
So, Mr. Bwala, I don't want to cut into your thoughts. Isn't that the reason to call for help?
Yeah, we've been working with partners. Maybe the perspective of your help is different from mine.
No, I'm just...
If the federal government is working with partners, is it an acknowledgement that, you know, the government is not in control of the situation?
Even the United States of America need us to help them, and we've been helping them in many ways.
Mr. Bwala, your comparisons may not be
you're talking about help from
You refer
partners.
to the United States having more insecurity than Nigeria. That may be debatable, but we read the stories here, you know, Mr. Bwala, and there is a higher rate of deterrence, even if there is a serious crime situation in the United States.
Do you know their
but
budget?
that is not the situation. Mr. Bwala, Nigeria spends trillions of naira.
Do you know the budget of New York Fire Service?
Without any result. And I just want to read to you the number of abductions,
without any result,
especially since the declaration of Nigeria as a country of particular concern. In Kogi State, bandits abducted a pastor, his wife, church members, an undetermined number of persons. In Sokoto State, a bride, her close friend, and 8 other residents were abducted by armed men in Chacho village. We've had in the last 8 days alone, since early this week, by the way, not today, a total of 395 persons have been reportedly abducted from 7 states of Nigeria, out of which only 79 victims have been released.
Right.
So if you're saying that, you know, in the former administration, they didn't even have an idea of how to go about it, then what can we say about this administration is also a miss about strategy or ideas about how to rein in on the insecurity challenge.
So this is the problem I have. You know, when we started, I am more about solution, about what we're doing. You know, when this whole crisis started, the first time was about debunking the notion of Christian genocide, because we are about solution, people were about profiling. After we've debunked that, we say we are more about solution. My brother was the one that said, let me take you back. And by the time he took us back now, you people stayed at the back. You don't want to make...
I confronted you with the facts, Mr. Bwala.
No, you didn't. You didn't say any fact.
Your characterization of
there's no Christian
it is
genocide?
unfair.
No. We'll come. We'll let one after the other.
So because you're saying
I'm coming. We've already done that.
No, you cannot. You've not done. That's a lie. That's
it's
not
still
true.
a subject of debate.
No, retract that one. Don't say that's a lie.
Mr. Bwala,
That's very, very wrong. As a journalist, to look at your case and say that's a lie. You can say it is factually incorrect, but you can never say that's a lie.
Let me say what I want to say.
But do you know what you said is wrong?
No, it's not. I'm saying that there are people... No, just hold on. Hold on. Let me establish my point. You as a government is saying we don't have state-backed. Because what is the American government saying? Christians have been killed. And you're not doing anything about it. That's the argument. You say, no. You're narrowing your profiling and your narrative to say, this killing affects both Muslims and Christians. But there are Christian leaders who have doubled down on that position. So you can't dismiss that position and say you've dispelled it. It's a mixed bag of those genocide arguments, geopolitics, resource control, economic issue, criminality. So that's why I'm saying it is not true.
So that what you just said is also a lie, because let me tell you.
What's a lie?
That's what I want to tell you.
Okay, go ahead.
What you just said is a lie because you gave a one-sided a report of those who hold the position that it is a genocide. But you have failed to mention that Reuters, BBC, Sky News, CNN, Wall Street Journal, Washington Post, I have mentioned their names, 6 of them, have done their fact check and came to the conclusion that there is no Christian genocide in Nigeria.
I think you and I are mixing the points. That is their position. Listen,
the one you give, is it not the position of others? Is it not the position of others?
This is the lived-in reality of the people we've had on this show.
You're mixing. You are the one mixing. Somebody came and told you his position, right? And I gave you a counter position.
That is your position. I don't think
the one you gave, is it your own?
That is not the
one you told me, is it your own?
It's not my, I'm quoting what the people who have the lived-in experience to say. Listen, Mr. Barra, just a moment. The government or Washington Post, whoever, can characterize it the way they want, and is within their right to.
And the people you're quoting should not have characterized it. They should have said, let me tell you the premise, let me tell you, brother. I'm just
putting their position to you.
But let me tell you, let me submit to you with the greatest respect why journalists are not helping in solving problem. Can you deny the fact that there are Muslims that are killed?
No, that's a fact.
Can you deny that there are people who have not identified as Christians or Muslims that are also killed?
That's a fact.
So when you have a fact that Christians are killed, Muslims are killed, those who have not identified with a religion are killed, will that qualify as a genocide?
Because the argument of the Christian people who are making this allegation is that it's been promoted by Islamic jihadists. I hope you get the distinction.
So the argument also of the individual I mentioned to you who are in a position to know what is genocide or not came to the conclusion that there is no Christian genocide, but there is a killing of all.
There's no exclusive preserve in terms of knowledge of what a genocide is. It's a common sense. It's not
a common sense.
It's not a number. It's not a
common sense. Sorry, my brother.
It's not common sense. It's not about, I think we mix this genocide argument because sometimes if we don't identify all the problem, we'll not address it correctly. If we deny the issue.
You know what you should have been saying?
Just hold on.
You should have been saying there are Christian communities who are complaining that they are being killed. I will not deny it. Government has not denied it. I'm coming and me to allow me to learn. I allowed you. If you say there are pastors, communities that are complaining that their people are being killed, I'll be the last person to deny that. We accept that. When you say there is a Christian genocide, what is genocide?
Those are their words. I'm quoting to you.
So I'm talking.
Say
then the counter words.
Genocide. If you look at the UN Convention, Article 2 of that, it doesn't talk about scale. So even if it's 1 million, it talks about intent. Just you're a lawyer, so you're in a better position.
By who? By whom?
United Nations.
No, I'm saying intent by whom?
Intent by those who perpetrate what is considered to be genocide.
Okay, so let me tell you again. Has there been genocide of Muslims?
I wouldn't know that.
How would you give your bias in your mind?
No, I wouldn't know that
because I now tell as an intellectual, I'm telling you, there is a fact.
Jeffrey, please hold on.
There is a fact. There is a fact, undeniable fact, that also states that there are also Muslims that are killed. You admit it. I told you there's a fact. I'm coming now.
My premise is that
hold on, Jeffrey.
The Christians are saying it is promoted by Islamic jihadists. That's the premise you're missing. Anyway, so that my colleagues can comment.
In wrapping up the argument, I'm more concerned about whether the federal government is in control of the situation or not. But in wrapping up the argument about whether or not there is a genocide as regards
no, it has been established. There's no genocide.
Of intention. Do you deny that Nigeria has an extremism problem? Yes. There's a country that is supposed to be secular.
I don't deny that.
But Sharia is deeply ingrained in our laws, and if indeed Muslims are being killed, perhaps that is circumstantial, but there is a real problem. It is not circumstantial, it was deliberate. There is a real problem where Christians are being targeted.
So here's the answer to this, and I will say it slowly so you can understand. In all the places where the Muslims were killed, it was not circumstantial. In fact, the data suggests that there are more Muslims that are killed because these killings have been taking place in the northern Nigeria. In Borno State, where I come from, the killings, more in number are the casualties are Muslim. You can go to all the northern states. Right. And now, as a government, we don't want to say Christians, Muslims. We just feel there is a problem and we're solving. So when people come with this narrow thinking of Christian genocide, Muslim genocide, they take off the real issue, which is the responsibility of government to fight. That issue, I told you, has been dealt with. Because those who were pushing it in Nigeria, they were hoping that they would get global community to come into that narrative. And we've been able to prove that the global community said that there is no Christian genocide. Well, now the United States government that you talked about that they are calling on, we are on table with them. We have passed that stage. We are finding solutions. We are discussing deeper things on how we can find solutions.
All right, so, Mr. Bwala, you said you have data of Christians, Muslims killed. So give us the figures.
So even the Civil Society for Liberties and Human Rights, the foundation of the fulcrum of the falsehood, if you look at their report, you go to their website, look at September, which is the data. I'm talking about data.
You said you have data that even shows that more Muslims are killed. So
that's what I'm mentioning to you.
So give us the figures.
Is the microphone not the enter your ear? I said number one.
You're quoting another website, Mr. Bwala.
Where do you get data?
No, you said the foundation of this was from that website, the lie. So you are quoting another data which you are using.
So what data do you want me to tell you?
The genocide.
What data do you want me to tell you?
You said you have data.
Have data, does it mean I'm the one that wrote it?
Mr. Bwala, you said you have data.
We have data. What are the data?
Muslims are killed.
You must.
So give us the figures.
Okay. Foundation for Civil Liberties and Human Rights, from their report, updated report September. If you go and read it, more Muslims have been killed. First, more non-Muslims, people who have not identified with religion, followed by Muslims, followed by Christians. Yes, in their report, followed by Christians and then Muslims. In this thing for Africa, I mentioned in my previous interview, they also came up with a finding.
So the government doesn't have data.
Government.
So, Mr. Bwala, I guess we're saying it doesn't.
I am countering their own narrative. The government is not profiling. We don't believe we can never profile about this number of Christians. No,
and I think that is a challenge.
Has never and will never be involved in the profiling.
Is it fair for government not to look at that distribution when these claims are laid?
That is why, first of all, the government has not drawn up a data of that because the government will be irresponsible to profile people, right? So when they came up with their data, we studied their own report and we found fault with their own. Then we escalated that to other organizations and found fault with that. Then these organizations I mentioned to you, the news media, carried out their own data and they came up with the finding.
So first off, just a second.
Yeah.
First off, it's important to have data that you can rely on.
As a government,
no, Mr. Bwala, Mr. Bwala, when other data come out and say Nigeria is one of the most corrupt or one of the poorest countries, you say, no, that's subjective data. No, our own data.
You ever asked me the question?
Mr. Bwala,
Mr. Bwala. No, but let it be specific.
I have had conversations with those in government.
Let it be specific.
Things about...
so I am not that person.
One second,
ask me the question that you
represent that government. But the point
then I'm giving you the data also that is not limited to what I produce.
So let me give you the context now.
Yeah.
The people who stay in the area said that one of the religious leaders said he had conducted over 70 mass burials. In fact, one of those mass burials had 501 people killed. That is a lived reality.
He said.
That is a lived reality.
He said, right?
He has
and
the data.
Has he supplied it? Has he supplied you?
And I expect that government is working with him.
Has he supplied you?
But here's my point, Mr. Bwala.
He doesn't have an answer.
He brought it on live television.
Mr. Bwala, you are trying to ask me a question you know the answer to already.
What? I don't know the answer.
Then that speaks to how well you're doing your job. If you don't have data information
from
Nigeria,
if you don't have question, let's go.
So here's my point. The people who live there have said time and again that we are being targeted and killed, and I've given you data. But I want us to wrap up with this point, because you said you want to solve issues.
Has the government denied that Christians are killed, just like Muslims are killed?
You're saying that there is
the government denied that?
Mr. Bwala, you know why it will be important for data to be available? It's not just because it's a matter of irresponsibility, because the bigger concern is that Nigerians are being killed, whether they're Christians or Muslims. It is because there is a genuine concern in the communities where there is a lived-in reality that we are being targeted. We're unable to freely express our religious convictions. And as a result, if you do not tackle the root causes, you continue to address the symptoms, and then you'll be unable to sufficiently address the challenge. I believe that is where it is important to have data that can be relied on.
We are engaging with all communities.
Will it be responsible as a government to rely on data provided by just one organization, but to have an aggregation of data to prove that indeed there is no targeting of people of a particular religion?
Only this morning, in the course of our conversation, I talked to you about 7 different reports that we rely on. The government is not shying away. When these people came up with their, like the civil liberty, which is an apology of a separatist group, when they brought their report, I studied it. I mean, how can I close my eyes? And I faulted it on the evidence of that, and I challenge anybody. When the one for Africa, Observatory for Africa, Religious Right in Africa, when they came with it, I studied it. Look at the report in their data. All of these reports suggested the killing of everybody. The Christians have been killed, Muslims have been killed.
So you choose to
the notion,
that,
the notion, listen,
the
notion, no, I said Christians have been killed.
No, you've said that you looked at those ones, and then that is what you're relying on. But Reverend Achomo's,
you see, you have a selective amnesia, with the respect, and you do a disproportionate,
Mr. Bwala,
disproportionate analysis. You have not in 1 second in this place mentioned the killing of Muslims.
Mr.
Have you done
Bwala,
that?
I will not insult.
Some journalists are the ones creating problems in this country.
I mentioned
by
all the
profiling
states.
people.
Mr. Bwala, that is not. I mentioned all the states that have been attacked. Majority of the states I mentioned.
Then I ask you.
So
the killing of one, the killing, I will not retract it.
So that means you're not being factual as well. But the point here is, Mr. Bwala, let's wind down on this point. I have represented
the journalists in Nigeria must play their role in finding solution. This fake news and hoax narrative of Christian genocide, it is disproportionate for journalists to sit and talk about the killing of Christians without also being sympathetic enough to look at the killing of other religions.
I mentioned all the states
you have not. All of you people are very silent about the killing of Muslims.
You should play this
the responsibility of government is to look at the killing of anybody in Nigeria as something that is bad and fight to stop it. We don't want to buy this idea of this Christian genocide. We are fighting insecurity, and all of our people are coming under attack every now and then.
To wind down, nobody is saying Muslims are not killed. In fact, there are parts of Nigeria that even Muslims are killed.
Have you mentioned that this morning?
You said you
I mentioned.
I said it. You did not.
No. I was building a case. Because of where we're going to.
So if you look at the totality of killings in Nigeria, where you have more Muslims killed than Christians, how is the notion that there is a Christian genocide over the Muslims?
I know as a government, you will naturally shy away from issues around genocide. It's okay. There's no problem with that. But we are saying in solving the problem, if we say there are 4 causative factors,
right?
Hypothetically, 4. No matter the percentage of those 4 causative factors or whatever we're dealing with, it would be unfair to say, because this is sensitive, let's not talk about it. You identify it and address it as a government. That's what we're going to, so that we have it, so that we begin to blame journalists. Journalists will report.
You are repeating the words.
No,
with respect.
No.
Let me tell you what all of us have agreed. Let me tell you what all of us have agreed here. We all have agreed here there is insecurity, right or wrong?
Yes.
Indeed.
We all have agreed that Christians have been killed in Nigeria. But answer now. We've all agreed Christians have been killed. We agree Muslims have been killed. We agree those who have not identified as Christians or Muslims have been killed. So we have a case of insecurity and not a case of genocide.
Mr. Bwala, as we wrap up, we do have a challenge of insecurity, but we also have a challenge of extremism. And that is an elephant in the room. And I wonder if that conversation is being extremism. Had. And we know where the extremism is coming from.
Are you more a relieved person, people who relieve their experience, than the state where I come from? You know how many of our people are being killed?
I understand.
When these people came to kill, they didn't look at religion. And we will, as a government, we will never sit down and admit or agree with the fake news that is circulating that there is a Christian genocide.
Let's wind down on the challenge of control, Mr. Bwala.
You talked about wind down, you talked about wind down, you talked about wind down. When are we winding down?
We're totally out of time, we're totally out of time. We're totally out of time. But the most important thing, I know you get the gist. It's important. I know you defend your government, it's fine. But identify and address everybody's concern, no matter how sensitive it is inability to
Let's
face
hope
that
in the future you will address it, but you didn't do that today. You focused more on Christians. But
no,
in the future, I'm hoping you will.
That's the point. It came up.
And in fact, if you have, maybe even have the objectivity of looking at it all, if you have the objectivity of looking at it all, then you don't need to call genocide. Let's focus on insecurity and how we find solution to insecurity.
We must wind down, and thank you very much. We've been talking with Mr. Daniel Bwala, the special advisor to Mr. President on policy communication. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you.
On the program.
Facts before we go. One, there have been prison breaks since this government came in. Secondly, the United States is not asking for Nigeria's help militarily.
is not asking.
You said they're asking for Nigeria's help in
I
terms
never
of
said
military.
that. I think that your mind is not here.
You said that even the United States.
You heard me. What did I say? What did I say? What did I say about that?
Just to fact check before we close.
Kayode, you see, you have one problem.
I can't quote you copiously, but you did suggest
but he has been misquoting.
My problem is to fight fake news. My problem is to fight fake news. And I'm fighting fake news.
Lies in the name of bringing objectivity.
Thank you.
I am not that type of I am not that type of anchor that will come to a TV station and keep quiet when people are peddling fake news. I will shut it down there.
All right. Thank you so much, Mr. Daniel Bwala.
No, hold on, Bwala. You're the one kind of you're the one denying the reality, but it's fine. It's okay.
You did say that we're out of time.
She said we're out of time. She said we're out of time.
We'll continue with our conversation. Stay with us. We'll be right back.